Welcome to the NLC podcast, Bertie, or should I say en français, bienvenue? Have I got that right?
Ah oui, merci beaucoup. Yeah, that's about right.
Well, I thought I'd better use my best French, and just to add a little bit of context to our listeners and viewers, Bertie joins us from Annecy, which is now where he lives, Lake Annecy in France. And I've recently been spending some time with him over in Chamonix. We've been practicing our French, so I thought it'd only be right to kick off with a little bit of a French intro. It wasn't much, but we're getting there, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's about my level as well, really, to be honest. I'm learning, but it's steady away. I can do sort of bits in the shops, but conversation is a bit difficult.
Yeah, so just before we get into it, Bertie, how long have you been in France now? Just to give our viewers and listeners a little bit of an insight into your life before we go really deep into the running side of things.
Yeah, so I've been here about 4 months. So me and my wife moved out in February. So we got sort of the tail end of the ski season, now kind of into the summer, which is amazing here, like with the mountains and the lake. Amazing for running and cycling and everything outdoors, really.
Yeah, very outdoorsy place by the sounds of it.
Yeah, everyone here is just on another level, to be honest. You tell people here you've done a 50k trail race and they're like, oh, that's a bit short. They all love trail running. They're into like the 100k races. Like there's a famous trail race here called the Maxi Race, which is 100k, and like every man and his dog seems to do it. You don't have to be super elite or anything. Everyone does it and everyone loves it. So everyone's out running and cycling and paragliding and everything. You don't feel out of the ordinary here, being like, doing a lot of running. So it's really nice.
Well, there's something quite nice about that, isn't there? I sometimes wish we had more of that in the UK, more of an emphasis put on the outdoor life and outdoor sport and people getting outside. And I know you mentioned to me all the time, like you get some dedicated time during like your lunch hours to go out and exercise, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, so it's good for training because, well, the French in general like a long lunch. So a 2-hour lunch is kind of commonplace here. I think traditionally you go and have a nice meal, you maybe have some wine and things. But I think companies in Annecy, and especially the company I work, everyone's crazy sporty, so everyone's going out and running or cycling at lunch. So you can go and do your training and it fits into the day really nicely. So it's quite good.
Incredible. Yeah, sounds like the perfect workplace. And maybe I need to embed that as longer lunches into our days over here. And I'm pretty good to get out. Saying that, we do runs from the office, and I know people like to get their training as well, so we do encourage it. But yeah, that's pretty cool to hear. It kind of leads us on to the first question that we always ask our guests about kind of inspiring people or inspiring things in your life. That sounds quite inspiring to me, bringing the mountains. But yeah, if you can, then just name some what we ask for is somebody who's potentially inspired you in your life or in your sport, or an inspiring moment from sport that maybe sticks with you in your mind, and explain a little bit around that before we go into kind of your full background.
Yeah, so I've always watched a lot of sport, and like my family is really sporty, so we've grown up watching the Olympics, and that's been a really kind of key part of my sporting life, really. So performances such as like Chris Hoy and Mo Farah have always been really important to me, and what they've done to the sport is incredible. So I guess they are inspiring to me, but I haven't got any like one person really that's an inspiration in kind of the sporting world for me. I guess the reason I like to do running and try and be the best I can is just because I want to push myself and see where I can get to. I don't need like a massive motivation to get out the door each day almost. I just like doing it and see where I can get to. So yeah, there's definitely people who are incredibly inspiring. There's no one person in particular that sticks in my mind really.
It's a good answer. It's I quite like it because like you grew up watching the Olympics, and it's all inspiring, really, isn't it? Olympics, Paralympics, there's so many moments that you can remember from growing up. But yeah, I think I can resonate with you. You do things because you love doing them, not because of somebody else. So yeah, it's a bit of a curveball answer. We've never had that one before, but it's a really good one.
Some of the people who like you, Chris Hoy and Mo Farah, who go on for such a long time winning so many medals, like I know how hard that is to do, just to try and stay on top of your game for that long and to be right at the top of the world for that long is incredible, and it is really impressive and inspiring to kind of, you know, if you keep showing up and keep doing all the work, you can still get there and keep doing it.
Yeah, it's amazing. Oh, Brill. So then, yeah, let's go on to you because you've kind of mentioned you love sport, you love running. You're obviously a trail runner, but I know it wasn't always that way. And as I've mentioned in my introduction, you're part of the NLC performance team. So obviously we know each other well because addressing the elephant in the room, I am your coach. So,
Yeah.
make this conversation somewhat easier. But I don't know everything about, Bertie, or as British Athletics like to call you recently, Albert, on the team announcement, which I know you weren't too fond of. But yeah, give our listeners and viewers a bit of an insight into, who you are, how did you find sport, and in particular, how did you get into the trail running world, which you've become, yeah, pretty good at.
So yeah, hopefully there's a few things you don't know. I've never really told you the full backstory, but yeah, so I've done running for quite a long time now, probably about 15 years. So I started off, but the first time I ever did sort of showed any promise was, I think it was year 7 or year 8 at school. I used to do loads of different sports, and then one day in PE, you do the school run that you have to do like once a year. That's like the cross country run. I remember doing quite well in that. I think I was first or second or something like that. Um, so I decided to go down to the local athletics club, and join like a middle distance group there. Well, actually, start off doing everything, doing like bulldog and javelin and all sorts. So I did that for a while, and then went on to the kind of, I was quite good at the more of the distance side. So I kind of got into the distance group. So that was a Doncaster Athletics Club.
Nice.
So yeah, it's a good club. It's still going strong. And then joined that middle distance group, with my first coach there, Barry, who is still coaching there now. Um, and yeah, it's a great club atmosphere that, and I remember you go down on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. There's a good group there. It just makes you want to go every week, socialise a bit, have a bit of fun, and do some running. Yeah, so I did. So throughout school, I was doing kind of track running mostly, so 1500s, 3K, and then towards the end of school, I got into steeplechase. So yeah, towards the end of school, I was taking it a bit more seriously. I did quite well in steeplechase. I got second at English schools in my last year. That was my first like big result, really.
Nice.
Yeah, that was really cool. I'd been for the 1500 the previous 2 years and got knocked out in the heats. So to then go in my last year and get a medal was really cool.
And was that so? They divide the counties up, but was it Yorkshire? Was it West Yorkshire?
Yorkshire is actually split up. I actually went to school in West Yorkshire.
Yeah,
So we're in West Yorkshire.
nice. And before we move on, just want to give a shout out to Barry, because I believe, is that Barry who you're still in touch with to this day, Bertie? You
Yeah,
still
yeah,
keep in contact with him?
yeah. Yeah, so still in touch with Barry. He's a really nice guy, still coaching. And it's amazing, like the club coaches can commit like, I don't know, 20 or 30 years to coaching. And a lot of them aren't paid. They just kind of love coaching and love helping people. Yeah, so Barry's a really nice guy, and he's yeah, still coaching, and he had a lot of input into my early running career.
Amazing. Yeah, incredible. Yeah, shout out to a lot of the club coaches, 'cause like you say, they dedicate a lot of time. And yeah, I always say like they don't realize how much they shape people's lives as well for the future. And it's great that you're still in touch with him. Brilliant. So that second at the English schools over the steeplechase, tough event, the chase. Yeah,
Yeah,
highlight.
English school it was only 2,000 meters, which is a bit easier, but it's a hard event.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, very hard. Yeah, everyone always stands around the water jump waiting for people to fall, which I think says a lot about the spectators, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
actually on that in that race, I was on the last water jump. I nearly fell over. Like I think my hand actually like touched the floor. So they nearly got a good bit of viewing, but not quite.
And then, yeah, where was it from there then? Because obviously that's a big achievement. Like second at English schools, like I know some people will be listening to this thinking, "Oh, yeah, that's amazing." Some people might not have heard the English schools, but how I used to describe the English schools to anybody who didn't know it was like the Olympics for us as school kids and college kids. Like it was absolutely massive, a parade and everything. It was so good.
Yeah, I agree. That's like the school athletics. That's the pinnacle. That's where everyone
Mm.
wants to get to, and you be part of a team. So like your county team, you all go and stay together. You get some accreditation, which kind of feels quite cool. I think there's like an opening and or maybe a closing ceremony, and it all feels like you're part of a really big event. And actually, it used to be all streamed live on TV on Sky Sports. Um, I don't think it is anymore, but it's still a really big event and what all the kind of school athletes aspire to get to.
Yeah, I remember a good friend of mine, actually one of our coaches at NLC, Ross Murray, winning on Sky Sports, and probably not too dissimilar age to yourself. And yeah, it's been a big deal. It's a shame it's not on like a big live platform like that because it is a fantastic event. I know probably got live streaming now, like the whole world has. But yeah, that's a big deal. So where did it go from there? Because that's like you say, that's being a national medalist at that age, you're not just showing you've got some promise. You're showing actually I'm pretty good.
Yeah, so after there, I went off to uni in Sheffield. Um, so yeah, Sheffield isn't renowned for being like a really good running university, but it was a good. I like the city. It's actually not far from my parents, and it was good for engineering, which is what I did. But it turned out we had a really good middle distance group down there. Um, so yeah, for cross country and track and road, there was a lot of people who were training together and kind of similar level to me really. So I kind of got a bit lucky in that aspect because in the years kind of before and after, it's not been quite as good. But yeah, there was a really good group of us down there, and so I took it really quite seriously, but also I was enjoying the uni life as well. So it was a bit of a balance. You'd have these like periods when you're training quite hard, and then you'd have a big couple of weeks going out a lot. But it was really good fun. And I actually got my first GB vest in my first year at uni. So again in the steeplechase. So I ran for the GB under 20s at the Loughborough International, which is where there's a GB under 20s against the senior teams from England, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. So that was a really good experience, and that was a really proud moment. I thought, yeah, it'd be cool to do this again. Turned out it hasn't happened for quite a long time, but uh, well, we'll maybe get onto that. But yeah, I've got picked for my first GB vest for the World Champs trail running, which is quite a different event now.
Yeah, quite a different event, but amazingly, we do see a crossover in the trail world between steeplechasers and trail. And it's not the obvious, or because you jump over fences that people are probably thinking. Probably more to do with the kind of the strength and the durability factor of the two events. But yeah, I can think of American Ali Ostrander, who she runs a steeplechase now for USA and competes at a very high level on the trails. But there are a number of examples. I'm just interested on like the point you just made about you said you're down in Sheffield and you got this like the Loughborough International vest, which is a bit again another big deal for a junior athlete because it's one of the few opportunities juniors get. They have like the Europeans and obviously you've got worlds and things that happen, but apart from that, junior vests are quite sparse actually, unless you go into the cross country. What year was that, Bertie? Do you remember what year you came to Loughborough? I'm going to try and see if our paths
Yeah,
crossed at an earlier
I think
stage.
it's been 2014, I think.
2014.
Somewhere of 2014, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Just before
very
Chianti.
likely. I was back here in Loughborough. We spent 18 months down in Teddington, which is about that time. But I think that's the summer we moved back to Loughborough. So probably watched you there without even realizing, which shows the connection of the
Yeah.
running world, doesn't it? Without really knowing it, it shows how close it all is.
Yeah, there's a lot of crossover between different people, and you end up meeting people from years back who are doing the same thing now. Yeah, it's quite a small world, really.
So yeah, again, big achievements. GB vest, and then yeah, at university, and yeah, where did university life then take you?
Yeah, so then after that, I was kind of just doing the running, doing the uni life. And I got a second place at Brooks in steeplechase in my first year, which was again really cool. And then couldn't replicate that again for the rest of university. But I was still running a lot and getting kind of PBs on the roads, and some PBs on the track as well. Um, and then, yeah, after uni, I kind of fell out of love with it a bit, really. So, yeah, when I started working after uni, I was training for a bit, for maybe 6 months, and I'd kind of then just had enough of it. I think when you're working, it's a bit different to when you're at uni. Like you've got to balance things a lot more, and you feel like you've got quite a lot less time. So then I kind of just didn't want to go out and be training in the evenings when I'm quite tired, and yeah, I just didn't enjoy it really anymore. So I stopped training really then. So yeah, there was a period of about 4 months, 4 years even, after that where I wasn't really training. So I'd go out for a few like 5K runs each week, but that was it. There was certainly no actual training, and I did a few park runs, that kind of thing. But yeah, I thought that was it, and I wouldn't be competing again. I didn't really have an interest in competing again, to be honest. I was quite happy just to kind of doing a bit more socializing, doing work, and uh, just keeping a bit fit, but just for pleasure, really, not for any kind of performance or anything. Um,
That's really interesting. I think it'll resonate a lot with our audience because like what I probably I don't know you like super well because we've only known each other for like a year, but it strikes me as the type of person that you would always want to keep fit. So I'm not surprised that that was the case, that you were still running. I imagine there was some other things thrown in there as well for fun and social element, but it shows that you can like not everybody always loves what they do. I think people have this assumption that elite athletes, people who perform well, they just love it all the time and it's dead easy to get out the door. And it's like, but it's not. We're the same as everybody else. And sometimes you go through spells, don't you, where actually you just don't want to do it, and that's fine.
yeah, yeah, I think even when you are enjoying it, you still don't enjoy it like every single session, and sometimes you have to kind of force yourself to get out the door a bit. But yeah, the period when I wasn't running, I used to do quite a lot of hockey when I was younger as well. So I started playing that again. It was really good. I was enjoying that. I think the break from running, I don't think I'd be kind of competing as I am now if I hadn't had that break as well. I think it gave me a good chance to reset and kind of regain my kind of love for it.
Mm.
So it was, yeah, kind of important for me, I think, to have that break and a bit of a reset. And that after I started running again, it was kind of when I pivoted onto the trail running as well. Um,
Yeah, so you touch on a good point there as well about like your training age. You probably, even though you still ran a little bit, you've probably not got as many miles on the clock, which sometimes people can see as a disadvantage because you've not been training, you've not got that like aerobic base behind you. But some people can see that as an advantage because you've not kind of ran the body into the ground as well. So your training age is slightly different to kind of like your chronological age, which a lot of people we'll talk about. And it obviously, more than anything, forget the physical, it sounded like mentally it put you in a really good place when you did come back. And yeah, from my perspective, I think I know where this story goes. You kind of found trail running maybe on your travels. If that is right, I'd love for you to explain like that travel aspect of your life, because I think that is fascinating, and yeah, it'll be a really insightful story for people to hear.
yeah. So I think in 2020 or 2021, basically during one of the lockdowns, um, I kind of was a bit bored really because there was not much to do and you were stuck inside. And me and my wife had this idea that we could basically go traveling in a camper van, but we wanted to basically buy a van and convert it into a camper van, which is also a lot cheaper than buying a full camper van, which is actually really, really expensive. Um, So I thought, great, because I'm an engineer and I love kind of doing DIY, building things. So yeah, in 2020, we bought this big builder's van, and it was a full on builder's van. It had no camper van features in it or anything. So we had to convert this from a builder's van into a camper van that we wanted to go traveling for a year in. So we spent about nearly a year kind of just in the evenings and weekends converting it. So putting everything into it. It had like a shower, a toilet, sort of a seating area, full on double bed. We basically built the bed frame and put our mattress from home in the back. Um,
Amazing.
because we kind of spec'd it all out so that we could fit this bed in. And we did it so we could fit bikes in underneath the bed, and it had loads of storage, and a full kitchen. So yeah, we really kitted it out well, with the view to kind of going traveling in it for a year. Because yeah, we just had that desire to travel and kind of get out a bit, as a lot of people did, I think, after lockdown. So yeah, then when the kind of lockdowns eased, we quit our jobs. So we were working in Warrington at the time, and kind of just, yeah, normal corporate jobs. So we decided we'd quit our jobs, and then we had no real plans for what we'd do when we came back after traveling, but we thought we'll figure that out when we get there. So that was a quite nice kind of sort of freeing experience. So yeah, we then went off traveling initially around Scotland for a couple of months, and then we went off into Europe. So we spent a lot of time down in France, and then we went down into through kind of Spain and Portugal. But a lot of time we spent in the mountains. So yeah, in the Alps we spent quite a bit of time. Well, it was actually like October, November, and it was pretty cold. And we were in the camper van in like teen, I can remember. And it was like, yeah, really cold. Well, at night it was really cold. You'd wake up, you'd have to wear all your clothes at night, and there'd be like a thick layer of ice on the inside of the windscreen because it's been so cold. Your breath had just kind of frozen on the windscreen. But then it'd be like the sun would come up and it'd be amazing around you.
Nice.
So yeah, did a bit of running there just because I wanted to, and yeah, I guess that maybe started off my trail running kind of career. I just sort of, some days I'd be like, yeah, I want to go to the top of that mountain, and I just sort of go and run up there, and I ran like sort of halfway up Mont Blanc one day.
As you do.
Yeah, and that was pretty cool. And then yeah, again we spent time in the Pyrenees as well, and we did similar things. We were kind of out cycling and we went skiing, and yeah, just being active and seeing different places.
Living the dream, yeah. And
Yeah.
I've just got visions of you. You know that saying, like, hold my pint. I'm just going to run up Mont Blanc. Like, just stay there, Jenny.
Yeah, I was quite tired when I got back.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. But maybe it says a lot about your ability and your climbing ability. But I am going to backtrack because I think it's easy to get like caught up in like as a running podcast, as an endurance podcast, it's easy to get caught up in just the exercise. But there's something that I think resonates with a lot of people here, and maybe resonates in a way that they didn't take the leap of faith that you did. A lot of people, when we came out of COVID, probably had ambitions to travel and do things, and there are a lot of thinking time. But there's a big difference between saying you're going to do something and actually doing something. And you're talking here about two people quitting their jobs to live like a bit of a free life and go traveling. And some people will be sat at home thinking, my God, I'll never do that. But some people will be genuinely sat there thinking, yeah, we had similar ideas and I didn't take the plunge. I didn't do it for one reason or another. Like, just go into a little bit of detail. Like, firstly, is it scary, and was it scary? And like, two, how did you get over that? And what persuaded you to just say, you know what, like, sod it, we're going?
Yeah. Well, I guess with the van, it was a bit of an easier one because initially we were building the van, and at that point you don't have to quit your job and do all that kind of thing. I think our initial idea was we would just go traveling for a couple of months or something, and then when we were building the van, we were like, oh yeah, actually maybe we'll go for longer. We'll make it so we can stay in it for longer. And eventually, when we finished it, we were like, yeah, it's been COVID. Yeah, what have we got to lose? We can go traveling. I mean, we're in a fortunate position. We've got, if everything went wrong, we've got family and a bit of financial stability that we could have kind of easily come back, which is really nice to have, and not everyone does have. But I think, yeah, we were thinking, what's the worst that can happen? Let's kind of do it. And also there was, we could have both sort of taken a sabbatical rather than quitting as well. But that kind of felt a bit like maybe we wanted to have a bit of a change afterwards. And therefore, if we take the sabbatical, it'd be really easy to just come back and do what we'd already been doing. So I think sometimes you've got to just take that leap and into the unknown and see what'll happen. I'm really glad we did. Yeah, I've had a couple of times now when there's been times where we've got a chance to do something, and yeah, we think if you don't take that chance, you'll maybe regret it. But if you do take the chance, what's the worst that can happen, really? Like, if you lose all your money, that's it's only money, isn't it? And often you'll be fine, whatever happens.
It's a really like refreshing attitude to have, and I know it's like easier said than done for a lot of people. And some people sat at home thinking, "Oh God, I wouldn't be able to do that," and that's fine as well. Like everybody's different, but I've got a very similar mindset to you. Yes, money makes the world go around, but it's not everything. It's like it's people, it's people you meet, it's the places you travel, it's the world you see. And I've been fortunate enough to go to places like Kenya, and I know you have too, Bertie, on your travels. And sometimes that perspective and seeing what people can live off and how they live off, and like the minimum that they live off, it gives you, I guess, a wider scope for what is possible and what you can do. And sometimes we don't realize how lucky we are to like live in this country and have what we have. So you can get by on a lot less than we think, and sometimes a van and good company is all you need, right?
Yeah, like in the van, we downsized and we only had like a couple of little cubes of clothes each, and our bikes and food, and that was it really. But I never really once thought, oh, I need all this other stuff that we've got at home. You can, if you need to, you can just live off what you really need, and that enables you to then go and travel and do what you want to do. You don't really need all this other stuff that you accumulate over time, but doesn't really enhance your experiences or anything.
Incredible. Yeah, really nice. And I think the bit you mentioned right at the end there is a really important point about like a decision not to take like a sabbatical and actually see this as like a bit of a change, and not having that security of coming back and not going into the same kind of routines when you get home. And maybe this is where I can resonate a little bit with trail running, because I feel like having found trail running a few years ago, myself and Gemma, it really has changed our way of life. Like it's not just changed my coaching, it's not just changed her running, it's changed our way of life. We spend a lot more time in different places, and I don't know, it just makes you think a little bit differently, and it does really make you appreciate the outdoors. And I know trail running kind of came as a result of what you were doing, as you said. But it sounds like you had that love for the outdoors already yourself, and your partner, who's now your wife, who wasn't at the time, more recent, obviously. But yeah, was that love for the outdoors already there, and then you kind of discovered trail running, and now that is like just a general way of life for you both?
Yeah, I think. Well, we've both lived and kind of done a lot in the outdoors as we've grown up. Like both our families are really outdoorsy. At holidays, we'd go kind of walking in the Lake District, or Jenny's family go orienteering all the time. So we've grown up kind of in the outdoors, and we've always liked that. I had in the past done a bit of fell running as well. So it was like an under 20, did a bit of fell running. So we already kind of liked that challenge. Yeah, trail running is, say you go out training, you're not just sort of going down the A57 doing your training. You kind of in the mountains. It feels a bit like a holiday almost. Or if you go like we were in Chamonix the other week for doing a bit of a training camp, and that's just you're going to a really nice place and you're exploring the surroundings, and it just makes it a bit more of an experience rather than just training. It's enjoyable, and you feel like you're getting to see all these really nice places and experience these kind of cool kind of cultures and environments. So yeah, it feels more like a way of life, like you say. I agree. It's a really relaxed way of life where a lot of even the top trail runners, they don't they don't live off a lot. They kind of some of them travel in vans or camp, and then they're just kind of doing their training in the mountains. They're not like staying in all these fancy places. They're kind of a lot of simple people who like the outdoors and just love being in that environment, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's so true. Like when we were training out in Chamonix, you see people like we were running from like refuges and stopping in the van, and you see so many other people doing the same thing. And it's almost like the appreciation for what you have, but also the time goes so fast. Like you go to do a run and you can't just do an hour run because like you can't really cover any distance. So you end up doing like an hour and a half or 2 hours, and yeah, but it just doesn't feel like you're out there for that long. It's so amazing to be in those environments and getting those views. Yeah, incredible. And obviously we had a great time over there. So you've found trail running, but like to kind of piece that whole story together, like it wasn't probably just trail running. You started entering trail races as well, right? On your travels, that was one part of it.
Yeah, so when we sort of had enough of our travels, and we decided we'd move back to Sheffield, which is, yeah, in the UK, I think that's one of the best places to be in terms of access to the outdoors and the hills. So that's right next to the Peak District. So we decided we wanted to go back there, and I managed to get a job back there. And I think literally we were still in the van, and me and my now wife Jenny, we entered the first like longer trail race I'd ever done. So it was called Tenerife Blue Trail, which is now one of the UTMB ones. It didn't actually used to be at that time. And that was, I think, like a few weeks after we'd got back. The race was. So yeah, we decided to do it, and it was like a marathon type distance that I did. So like 45k with 2,000 or 3,000 meters of climb, something like that, which is way longer than anything I'd ever done. And I didn't really do much training for it. So this is in the van. I still wasn't really training. I was doing some running, but no like sessions or anything like that. So I think I'd done like one like 2 hour run before this. And I was like, oh, yeah, it'd be all right. It went quite well. Well, I came third in the end.
It's not bad.
But yeah, I was running with the guy came second for like almost the whole way. And I looked at the course beforehand. I knew the last sort of 5k was like just sort of undulating along the front, the beach front. And I thought, yeah, I'll keep running with him. And then I sort of backed my speed a bit. I thought, yeah, I'll just overtake him at the end. But I had the biggest bonk I've ever had on that last 5k. It was awful. Yeah, I just was like crawling to the finish. I think he put like 5 or 10 minutes onto me. I just completely ran out of fuel.
Well, there's a story that a lot of people will be able to resonate with.
Yeah.
Not quite knowing what you've got yourself in for, but a great experience, right? And a learning one at that.
Yeah, and then we loved it. Like it was such a fun event. Like you finish right kind of on the beach. There's like a really cool atmosphere, and it's just, yeah, a really nice kind of low key but fun event. And we just thought we'd do some more of it,
Nice.
basically.
And that did that really kind of whet the appetite then? That was when you knew, oh, actually, this is something I really enjoy and something I want more of.
Yeah. Then after that, was doing a bit of everything really. So I'm back in Sheffield, but I joined Dark Peak Fell Running Club. So doing a lot of races for them. So they're mainly sort of shorter fell races, but they're, yeah, really good fun and low key. So I was doing a bit of that, a bit of road running, some relays, that kind of thing. But yeah, I knew that I didn't want to do any track races at that time. Like now I got no real interest in doing any track races. I knew it was more like the fell running and maybe a bit of road running that I enjoyed.
Nice. So that, yeah, I guess that leads on to, yeah, where our world started to connect a little bit. So we obviously had like, mutual friends in both worlds, and social media is a great thing. It can be a bad thing for some people, but it can be a great thing as well. And particularly with the running community, you start to see results popping up. Like, it's a long time ago when you were growing up in that English schools result, and you had to wait for Athletics Weekly to come out to get like your results on the Wednesday. And you used to get the Athletics Weekly magazine and just wait to see what had gone on in the running world. Now it's so instant. But there is something good about that, because I think the first time I had seen your name before, I think through a mutual friend that we were chatting about in Chamonix, Max Wharton, who I was coaching, who also did well on the fells and mountains as a youngster, and not too far from you, Halifax based, wasn't he, Max?
Yeah.
Growing up. So he probably competed against each other as well. So I'd seen your name and kind of recognised you, and then there was a result that really stood out like last year, which is interesting because it's also been a result for Gemma that was a really memorable result over in Chianti. But yeah, that for me was like a big performance from you, like, and a standout performance. If you can just kind of enlighten our viewers into, well, what happened in Chianti, but also like the build up to that, because that's where you got your OCC auto qualification, which is a big deal in the running world for the UTMB week.
Yeah. So yeah, well, in 2023, I did a couple of the longer trail races, so like the Three Peaks race and the Lavaredo Ultra Trail, which is one of the UTMB ones. I thought that was when I really thought, yeah, this is really cool. I want to really kind of focus and try to see how far I can get in this. So then I started training really hard for Chianti, which was in, I think, March 24. And I found it really nice to have a big aim to sort of train for and kind of get me out the door each day. Especially in the shorter stuff, you're never really training for one specific thing. You're just sort of training for cross country or you're training for track season. So I found it really nice to have a big focus. So it's like one event. So yeah, I was doing a lot of training for Chianti. It was going really well. And then I didn't really know much about the UTMB or anything at that point. I knew you could get qualification for the UTMB, but I actually thought it was, I think they just changed the rules. I actually thought it was the qualification for the same year, but actually it's the qualification for the next year. But anyways, I sort of thought, oh yeah, it'd be cool to get the qualification. But then a couple of weeks before the race, I'd seen the entry list and seen the rankings, and I was like 15th or something. I thought, well, there's no chance I'm getting the top three, which is what you need to get the qualification. I thought I was completely out of the question. But yeah, in the race, it kind of really suited me, and I had a really good run and ended up coming third, which I couldn't believe, really. It wasn't, yeah, seeing the entry list, all these professional athletes running for the big brands, I kind of just didn't back myself, really. But yeah, it shows that you can sometimes surprise yourself, and it doesn't happen every time. But yeah, that was really cool. And then that kind of kickstarted my kind of sort of performing a bit of a high level, really.
Nice. Yeah, I think there's similarities here, and a lot of people will be able to again resonate with it, with the, like, going in as an underdog, no expectation as opposed to too much expectation. Like, we see that sometimes when people are expected to win or expected to get on that podium, and then it goes the other way. But sometimes coming in as a little bit of an underdog and taking those expectations, that weight off your shoulders, can be a good thing.
Yeah.
And I bet people didn't know you were either. So you're probably running along and they're like, oh, who's this guy?
Yeah, I think they were. I was just running along in my random kit, and there were these like Adidas Terex guys who gave me a bit of a funny look. And yeah,
They're probably thinking, this guy's going to die off any minute. He's not going to be lasting much longer. But you kept going and kept going. So yeah, just explain to people like that distance, that elevation. Obviously, Chianti is quite runnable, but I know you're very specific about your training. You factored that into your training when you were looking at kind of creating certain loops and things, which we've now named the Bertie loop over by Lady Bower Reservoir. But yeah, what sort of course was it, and what conditions did you get on the day in 2024?
so yeah, that so Chianti is kind of you're running. So it's in Italy in the Chianti wine region. You're running through a lot of vineyards. And so you've got sort of undulating terrain with like the climbs are maybe 150, 200 meters maximum. So yeah, it's kind of rolling terrain and quite fast. It's not too technical. It's a lot of sort of almost like farm tracks. And so I did the 40k distance. It's something like 40k with 2,000 meters of climb. But yeah, like I say, all sort of short climbs. So yeah, I looked at this at sort of the stats, and I thought, oh yeah, that could suit me quite well. And especially being in the Peak District, you've got access to those sort of climbs, but not the massive ones that you needed to do some races with. So yeah, I looked at the profile, and I found some loops around Lady Bower for my long runs that basically had 150 meters climbs, and I'd just go around and around this loop, do it like 7 or 8 times on a long run. But it really replicated the course quite well. It was like fast, a few rocky bits, but generally pretty smooth going. The same sort of steepness of the hills, and it really, yeah, I think the specificity really helped, and that is, I think, key for trail races when it can be so different, to try and replicate as best as you can the scenario that you're going to face in the race.
Yeah, there's a message here for a lot of people who maybe do enter ultra trail races. Like, do check out the course. Don't just look at the elevation and the distance. Actually, go into the profile and see how that's broken down as well, because they're very, very different to one another. And you can see what's going to suit you, and you see what type of climbs you need to prepare for. And with Chianti this year, when Gemma went out there, like rather than me try to figure that out, it was quite easy for me to have a conversation with you and say, well, actually, Bertie, what was it like out there? Because this is what the map is suggesting. Have I got this right? And we went to that loop, and I was like, yeah, you've nailed it with this loop. Like, we went and did it once, and I was like, we're not really moving from here with our long runs. We're going like every few weeks, and it shows you don't often need to do anything spectacular. You just need to do the basics right, but you've got to make sure it does suit, which is very different, isn't it, from where you are now? So that race has qualified you for the OCC. And having been out there now in Chamonix and trained on that course, it's a very different challenge, isn't it? That 50, well, it'll be about 55k at the OCC with over 3,000 meters of climb, but those climbs just hit differently.
Yeah, yeah. So like a climb in the race like at OCC, it's got several climbs that are sort of 700 meters elevation, which is really hard to train for in the Peak District. But out here, like it's quite different doing a 200-meter climb than an 800-meter climb. You've got to be in a completely different gear, really. So it is, yeah. Obviously, you've got to kind of do the best with what you got, but if you can get out onto big climbs, I think it really does help to prepare you for that, and also the technicality. Well, I didn't used to think of myself as being very good on technical terrain. I think, well, the Peak District is generally kind of quite grassy and not that technical. So maybe I didn't get that much practice on it. But being out here, I think, so Annecy is kind of a bit rocky and technical. And I think just being out here helps you for that. And I definitely do feel like I'm a bit better. So, yeah, training out here with a view to doing the OCC, I think it really does help to improve your sort of technical skills, just be a bit smoother on the technical sort of flat and the downhill sections. So I think that is key as well as the elevation profile, looking at how technical things are.
Yeah, being exposed to something more often and more frequently definitely makes a difference. And people often worry if they've got like a weakness or they're not good at something. But there's a good message there to just expose yourself to it more, because the more you do it, the better you will get at it. You don't have to be perfect at it, but you can certainly improve areas. And that, I guess, that leads us nicely on. Now, there's a lot of achievements packed into 2024 as well. We could talk about like your England vest as well that you got, and like different things, but ultimately you're on this kind of, yeah, this trajectory that was certainly propelling you towards like the elite end of the ultra trail scene, because that's an elite qualification for OCC. Like that, you're not getting that unless you're competing against the best in the world. You have to be right up there, and your score reflected it, your position reflected it. You also had like England vests in the process, in the uphill races, and you had a good race at that trial. But then I imagine your mind was starting to think like a year ahead, because this was the new change that you mentioned. You hadn't, so this was the March of 2024. You'd not qualified for OCC in 2024. You qualified for OCC in August of 2025. So yeah, how does your mind deal with that, and where do you think about, oh well, how do I plan for that big goal being so far away?
Yeah, I think when I initially sort of finished, I thought it was still for this year, and then it was only after a couple of weeks later I realized it wasn't for this year. So initially I'm sort of disappointed, like, oh, it's a shame. It would have been really good to do it this year. But actually, as it's turned out, it's given me a lot more time to prepare. And also, as it's turned out, I now live an hour down the road from where it is. So it's actually been a really good thing. So yeah, if it's because it's such a long way away at that point, it's just sort of almost business as usual. Try to keep training well and keep kind of progressing things. Don't do anything spectacular, like you're not really going to make any difference 18 months out from a race. You just got to keep progressing things slowly and try to build up, and with a view to kind of having that as the end goal, but sort of making sure you get other goals in between to kind of keep you motivated and wanting to improve.
Yeah, it can feel a long way away, but you've probably, like you said, done the right thing, looking at goals in between, and making sure you have, like, whether we call them A goals, B goals, C goals, like short-term goals, medium-term goals. There's other things in there. And I know from when we first spoke, you did have things mapped out, which was pretty cool. And you had a lot mapped out, actually. I remember thinking, God, he's got a lot on the calendar. But yeah, I guess let's go on to that. So after UTMB this year, I was speaking to some good friends out there at UTMB, and I guess from my perspective, I had fell well in love with the trail world, not just UTMB. UTMB is fantastic. The week is fantastic. I know it sometimes gets a bit of a bad rep, particularly with the commercial side and that type of thing. But in terms of inspiring people to get out there on the trails, it is absolutely incredible. And the week, I can only describe it as like magical. It really is. And I was starting to get like a buzz for coaching ultra trail runners that I'd not had for a long, long time since I started coaching kind of track and road runners. And I was speaking to a friend in Chamonix, and I said, I'd love to work with some more people in this world. And they said, well, how do people know that you're doing it? And he said, why don't you like put something out that you're actively looking for to work with elite trail runners? So I got home from Chamonix and I did that. And that's where our paths crossed, because your name popped up, and so I was like, "Oh, that's really interesting." Like, I've been following Bertie online, so I was quite excited by that. But what kind of, what made you take that leap? Because at that point in time, you'd had quite a bit of success managing things yourself, so it would have been easy to stay on that trajectory, I guess.
Yeah, so at that point, I hadn't had a coach for many years, at like 5, 6, 7 years. Yeah, and as I'd come back to running, I was just obviously coaching myself, and it had gone really well up to Chianti. But as I was sort of getting towards that more elite end, I thought, yeah, there's to get to that next level. I think it'd be really good to work with a coach. And I wasn't kind of actually like reaching out to loads of people, but yeah, I'd been sort of following Lewis as well, and seen he'd had some really good results with a couple of athletes who were really performing at the top level. Yeah, so I saw he was looking for other elite trail runners. So I thought, yeah, why not? Let's kind of connect. And I remember having the first chat with you, and you just spent like an hour talking to me at like 9 p.m. at night, and it all just felt, yeah, really natural and really good. And I kind of just got a good vibe. And I thought, yeah, it'd be really good to get your input. And also, I think that coaching is much more than just a training plan as well. It's just having someone to chat things through with and bounce ideas off, and just sort of be in your corner. And yeah, I just got a good vibe that it'd work well, and yeah, it's going well so far.
Yeah, it's you for me, you've hit the nail on the head. Like, people often look and think, oh, coach athlete relationship is just set the plan and the athlete does the plan. But like, for me, it's far more than that. It's building relationships with like good people, and sometimes some very good athletes come knocking on your door, and that you don't necessarily work with them because you don't feel like that relationship is right. I think that's a big part of it. But from my perspective, speaking to you, and I came off that call and I was like, I'd really like to support Bertie, and I feel like I could really, really help. And you had some goals which really aligned with kind of my goals as a coach as well, of, trying to potentially get on podiums at UTMB and making GB teams, which is a big thing for me. When I see athletes who want to represent the country, I think that's really, really cool. And that, I guess that was the first big goal, wasn't it? To see if you could make a GB team again, and that was the plan. And you had some other goals in between, like you ran pretty decent half marathons and things like that. But yeah, what I guess the thinking there. So the world champs of this year in 2025, they're going to be later on in the year in September. But let's backtrack to, like, when did you first find out about that? And was it always a big goal for you to get back in that GB vest? You've mentioned Loughborough already.
Yeah, so yeah, it was a big goal. So in 2024, the Three Peaks race that I did was a trial for the GB team for the world champs there. And so I went to that race not expecting to qualify or anything, and I came eighth. And I think the top four got picked. So I was kind of close. I thought, oh, yeah, this be really cool, and something that's almost within reach, and not a crazy dream, but I thought it was achievable. It's just kind of then making it happen and fitting in. So then when I saw that In I think it was like the end of 2024, they announced a selection policy, and yeah, the trial race was going to be at the Scafell Sky Race in May this year. And I was looking at the course, thinking, yeah, this really doesn't suit me, to be honest. It was like incredibly technical, which isn't my strength with a lot of climbing. But I thought, I'd love to get the GB vest and represent my country. So if you don't try, you're not going to get it. So I thought we'd give it a go, and what's the worst can happen? You don't get it. So yeah, there's always a big goal, because yeah, to represent your country is just amazing, I think, and especially it's something like a world champs is pretty cool, and not many people get to experience.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Someone's viewpoint of what their strengths are and, where they might fit. And I remember you talking about the Sky Race, and it was a really good course for the course that's going to come at Worlds. I think that has to be said. The course at Worlds is very technical, a lot of climbing up there in Canfranc. So I think the selectors actually did a really good job of picking, like, again, back to that specificity point, isn't it? They've probably got the athletes that they know can perform well in Canfranc on like a technical terrain. So I think that they deserve a bit of kudos for that. But I always remember you saying, "Oh yeah, but these fell runners, they'll descend so quickly on this technical terrain, and like they move across it so well." And I just wasn't so sure, because I've seen that happen in the longer races, and I've seen the detriment it causes to people when they do go too quick. And I guess the first, I knew you were training well, like, but the first time I really thought about it, as in like, oh no, he's better than he thinks this type of terrain, is when you did the recce like the week before. Like, because you'd been training on terrain that we didn't know. We were like, yeah, he's fit, he's training well, he's in great shape. But then you went up there the week before to do a recce, and I was like, I remember messaging you thinking, look, you don't have to move that much faster than that on the race day. Was
Yeah,
that a
yeah,
surprise?
it was. Yeah, so I'd obviously doing the fell. I'd done some fell races which are much shorter and faster, like in the previous couple of years, and typically on the uphills I was pretty good, but downhills, some of the fell runners can just absolutely rocket down the downhills, way faster than me. Um, but I hadn't really got much of experience on the longer races of how fast people went, especially over kind of really technical terrain. So yeah, the Scarfell Sky Race is like a 4 or 5 hour kind of race, which you can't actually go super fast on for that long. So yeah, obviously being out in France, I didn't have that much time to recce, so we just went out the week before, and I recce'd the sort of 2/3 of the race that previous weekend. Yeah, and Lewis had said, yeah, just go at a really easy pace. And we did like a few hours on the Saturday, and I think like an hour and a half on the Sunday. Um, and yeah, it turned out that the pace I'd gone there was not much slower than race pace, really, which was really surprising. Because I thought you really need to be smashing these downhills really hard to be anywhere near sort of the time you need to be. So that really did surprise me. Up to that point, I thought you had to go sort of really quite hard in all these races to do well. Which maybe for Chianti, it was less than 3 hours. You can go a lot harder, but so
Yeah.
I think the 4 or 5 hour range is quite different, really, which was new to me.
Yeah,
Surprised me.
you're right, actually, because it's actually, look at it physiologically, it's a completely different zone almost. Like 3 hours, people can hold that kind of steady zone two type effort for pretty much the duration, and they can push themselves. They're probably tempoing up the hills and kind of, lowering that heart rate a little bit on the downhills. But that 4.5, 5 hour range, like you're bordering on like a what I class as like a lower steady, higher easy. And yes, there's still going to be elements of climbing a bit harder. Of course, the heart rate goes up. You can't help that. But there's a lot of that race spent where you're actually trying to conserve energy rather than push, 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 push. And I know we had a big plan around that, and not going too hard too soon. I want to touch on like preparing for that race. So you recce'd, which I think is important. Even though that was a week out, some people would say, "Oh, you shouldn't be doing that a week out." We felt like it was really important for you to see the course. So I think that's really important to see the terrain. You shouldn't overdo it. It was just easy. But yeah, really important to get on there. we had to consider like the potential weather, which turned on the day, and the fueling, which I want to touch on because a lot of people, it's a big topic at the minute. They're fueling, they're shoving loads of grams of carbs into them, and it can get quite expensive. But for you, that's a little bit different, and I love this approach, and it's been a big learning for me as a coach. But yeah, I'd like you to just talk a little bit about your fueling strategy and what you do to prepare for a race day.
Yeah, so well, this started before Chianti. I'd seen, like all the top athletes are trying to get like basically as much carbs as they can per hour. So like 100 grams of carbs, something like that. And you sort of to help build up that, sort of build your tolerance. You need to be practicing that in training in sort of your long runs. And I was looking at the gels and thinking, I need to take 100 grams of carbs an hour here on all these training, but it's going to cost me a fortune. And being being a bit tight and also being sort of an engineer, I love to sort of make things and test things out. So I was looking at the sort of ingredients on all these gels, and they're basically all really simple and all the same. They have like maltodextrin, fructose, and water, and maybe a few other little flavorings and that kind of thing. But that's essentially it. And I was looking online, and these things are well cheap to get, a big bag of the powder of these. So I thought I'd just have a go at making them. And I'd seen a couple of videos online. So then on the kind of the long runs, I was doing these different recipes and trying things out. And I'd tried about 10 or 15 different recipes, and then I got to one. I was like, yeah, this is all right. And it packs in loads of carbs. It's pretty dense. As good as basically the best gels. And I put it in a big soft flask, so like a 250 ml soft flask. Just have it out of there, and I find it really easy as well. You don't have to open all the gel wrappers. So now training and racing, that's sort of what I do now. I just make this homemade gel, that I think is as good as all the other expensive gels you can get. And yeah, it works really well for me. I enjoyed the process of making it, and also you save a lot of money. I think I worked it out for the equivalent of like one gel when I make it is like 10 or 15p, whereas you can spend £3 or £4 if you want, if you get the expensive ones. So it works out well.
It's a very cost effective way of doing it, and it makes me laugh because there's part of me, and I know Jenny's the same, where she's like, yeah, he loves making things and stuff, and then she's like, yeah, but he's also cheap. I'm like, yeah, you can take the man out of Yorkshire, but you can't take the Yorkshire out of the man, which is what I love about it.
Yeah.
If you can save money, but I think it's a really good lesson to people. Like, don't just assume that you have to buy gels. You can also have whole foods. You can, James tells the story who I coach about when he went to Europeans with Thomas Roach, and Thomas Roach was mushing up banana, and he was using that. He was packing that into like a soft flask. So there's other things you can do. Doesn't always have to be gels, but I think it's a really clever way. But ultimately, the goal was to still, fuel heavy, wasn't it? It was to get a lot of grams of carbs in there to fuel right for these longer races.
Yeah, I think now to compete, like everyone's doing it because it does work. Just try and you don't need to go like ridiculous. Some people do try to push it too far, I think, but just get quite a lot of grams of carbs in per hour. And then I find then towards the end, I'm still feeling pretty good and much better. So that you can then carry on to push and you don't sort of die at the end. I do think it really does help. Like at the end of the Sky race, there's a faster road section at the end. I was still feeling pretty good, like still had some energy, which I think is a lot to do with the fueling. Also, obviously, I was well trained for it, but I think the fueling is really important as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think even fueling in training now, as we're seeing people fueling in training more, which is helping them recover more and helping them to bounce back to do more training. But yeah, let's talk through that Sky race result then, because I came up to the lakes to watch. It was a wet and miserable day. I actually ran to the aid station to see you, which I'll never ever do again, because it's blooming freezing. And unfortunately, Joe had a bit of an accident on the fells there. But yeah, it was wet, it was windy, it was horrible. It was probably a bit different to the stuff you'd been training in Annecy, although you had some bit of a bad weather over there as well, especially when you went to Chamonix, when you tried to do a course recce. And you mentioned that road section there towards the end, but how did that race play out before that road section? Because I know that road section is a crucial part of the race.
Yeah.
But yeah, what was going through your mind before that, and how did it play out in general?
Well, so yeah, beforehand, I'd sort of seen who was entered. I thought I've got a chance here. Things need to go well, but I knew there's at least a few spots up for the GB team. I thought I've got a chance, so I'll just give it my best shot and see what happens. And like I said, I'm not that confident on the technical train. So given that, I was thinking, oh yeah, I really hope it's a nice day, because then that just makes it a little bit easier. But as it turned out, it was a horrible day. It was raining and sideways rain all day, really. So yeah, I wasn't ideal, but I thought, oh, we're in it now. We'll give it a go. So yeah, there was a good group of us. So there's sort of maybe three main climbs, and you go up the first climb. There's maybe 10 of us together, and then coming off that climb, like two or three of them absolutely flew down it. I couldn't really go any faster, to be honest. But I think that probably helped that I didn't ruin my legs really there, whereas some of those guys in front maybe kind of it tired them out a bit. So I was just going my own pace down there, and then you've got sort of a bit of a flatter section round to the aid station where Lewis and Jenny met me, and then I sort of reeled them in a bit there. And I was still feeling pretty good. And then after that is the sort of the second half of the race where it gets really technical. So you go around Great Gable, and that's sort of not really on a path. It's on these sort of rocky. You're just sort of jumping between the rocks, to be honest. And then it all closed up together. So it was, I think, about six of us together there. And I was quite pleased that there was other people to follow there to sort of make sure he didn't go off the route and kind of follow their footsteps a bit, because that was probably the part I was least confident on. But yeah, in general, I was climbing pretty well, probably like one of the best on the climbs. And then towards the end, people were actually descending a lot slower. So in the second half, my descending was probably similar pace to everyone else. But yeah, it kind of just gradually strung out in the second half, and then going up sort of the last couple of climbs, it was just me and Grant together. And then going up the last climb up to Bowfell, I'd managed to get a bit of a lead, and at the top of Bowfell, I'd maybe 30 seconds or a minute lead, but there was other people pretty close behind that. And then from there, you basically got a big descent, and then a road, maybe a mile on the road at the end. So given that my sort of descending wasn't my strong suit, and I was like 30 seconds or a minute in the lead, I was sort of running scared a bit, just trying not to mess it up, because I knew they'd all be coming for me. And I was just trying to go as fast as I could without but not really pushing it. So if I fell over there, it was game over really. So I managed to get to the bottom, and one guy, Joe, kind of just overtook me right near the bottom. But I knew if I could get to the road, I'd be all right. So I was still in touching distance of him there. And then on the road, I managed to pass him and then get the win. And I couldn't believe it really. It went really well.
One of those days, when it all comes together, and similarities to Tenerife in a way. Is like this road section, you're backing yourself on this road section, you're praying the legs will be there, and on this occasion they were, thankfully.
Yeah, that was a good job.
Yeah, and I guess like from my perspective, and Jenny's and Jenny's parents as well, who were there supporting, you had a great little support crew there. We were stood at the corner and we were just waiting in anticipation, really. And it was a nerve-wracking day because the tracker kept losing your tracker, and then all of a sudden you'd appear and it'd be like, oh, you'd be back in second or first. And I was like, don't do this to us. But at one point he was like just dropping down the names. I was like, what's happened to him? But from the last checkpoint, it was a long time before we would see you coming into the finish. And I just remember Jenny's mum shouting, go on, Bertie. And like just hearing that, I knew you were in first, and you came flying around the corner and into the finish. And yeah, I couldn't have been happier for you, because I know of how hard you'd worked, and you had some injuries in the build-up as well, which is we've not really touched on, but you'd had those ups and downs through the winter, but ultimately you'd stayed patient, and you'd had to cancel a few races as well, which is never nice. But you'd managed to get a race in before that, and then everything came together on the day. So that does mean you are officially UK skyrunning champion as well, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
Cool vest. The national champion is nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
wasn't expecting it.
for somebody who doesn't like technical terrain, it's not a bad tagline, is it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think
Yeah,
getting honestly, I've definitely got better at the technical, and I'm less scared of it. So that's helped a
excellent.
lot.
Well, that helps not just for Worlds, which yeah, so that meant that we thought that you'd be automatically selected. The selection policy said that you'd be automatically selected if GB decided to take a team, if they believe the team has medal potential or that the individual has top 5 potential. I think it was something like that in the word. It's always a bit complicated. But ultimately, it did mean that just over a week later, I believe, you got that phone call. How did that feel?
Yeah, that was really cool. So I thought I'd be selected, but to have it confirmed is yeah, really nice. Um, yeah, so then yeah, selected for the World Champs in September. So yeah, a couple of big goals. So I've got the OCC this summer, and then about a month or so later, the World Champs. So it's yeah, really exciting summer.
It's going to be a big one. So the OCC falls and the last week of August, and then obviously the last week of September is the Worlds, where it's actually a Friday a race, isn't it? It's a
Yeah,
funny one for World Champs, but yeah, you'll go the Thursday the OCC, and then the Friday the World Champs, the back end of the following month. So out in Chamonix for UTMB week, and then out in Canfranc in Spain in the Pyrenees for the more technical one, but both really good races to get your teeth into. And back to the again to piece this whole story together. You said it was 2014, was it, that first GB vest? Is that right, in
yeah,
Loughborough?
yeah. 20 best, yeah.
And then 2025 is when that second one comes. And whether it's people looking for inspiration, we mentioned inspirational people or characters at the start of the podcast, but whether it's people just looking for a little bit of inspiration like you do yourself, just in general, like whether you're aiming for a GB team or not, I think there's a story here of like you can go away from the sport, you can come back, like as long as you love what you do, you can still come back and do it at the same level. And yeah, it's amazing to get that GB vest like 11 years later.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. When I thought when I sort of stopped running, I thought, yeah, that was it. I didn't cross my mind that I'd be out running and competing at a high level again. But it just, yeah, I think people often say you just keep showing up, and that is true. Like if you keep working, keep doing all the right things, like it might not happen this year, next year. It might be 5 years or 10 years, but you do sort of get what you deserve in the end, I think. And it helps to have like really good support around you. Like, I think, yeah, having a coach who really understands you and progresses things slowly rather than just trying to, you know, have a really massive block of a few weeks and you sort of run yourself into the ground. I think that's important. And yeah, having other support around you, like my wife, Jenny, is really supportive and it really does help to sort of keep you going in the long term.
Yeah, well, we had a great trip recently in Chamonix, like a training trip, and it's nice to have that support crew there. And it was really nice that when yourself and Gemma are recceing the course, like Jenny and I are almost like recceing like the points of support, and like it feels like you've got like a little team there, which is really cool. And I was saying that to Gemma, I was like, oh, it was really nice for you guys to run together, but so it was really nice for me to have some company with Jenny and like talking through like what we'll do on the day and those sort of things. Yeah. So all the things to look forward to. We usually ask like, what's next? That's how I usually end most of the podcast with an athlete is, what's next for you? You've mentioned the OCC is next, and then obviously the Worlds. But yeah, just give a bit of an insight into like what now is in your mind before OCC. Are you in that big final phase? I obviously know that, but yeah, how do you view that, and give our viewers a bit of an insight?
Yeah, so the OCC is 6 or 7 weeks away now, I think. So it's actually not that long away. Obviously, from the 18 months ago when I qualified, it's coming up pretty quick. Um, yeah, so now we kind of recovered from the Sky race. I did another race a couple of weeks ago, and now we're sort of just building and yeah, the final push really. So making sure we get those long runs in. I'll try and go and recce the course a bit another couple of times if I can. And just not doing anything too crazy, but just building things up a bit and trying to get to the start line sort of as fit as I can and healthy. I think that's the key part.
That's a great message to end with. I think people often can overdo this last phase. They think more, but actually the key. Paula Radcliffe said it on the podcast when we interviewed her. She said, get to the start line 100% healthy and 90% fit, and you've got a better chance when you do it that way. So often people strive for the other way, 100% fit, and then it often can lead to not being 100% healthy. And if you're 100% healthy on that start line, you've always got a chance. So, yeah, it's a really good message to end with. Oh, well, thanks for that, Bertie. It's been a great conversation. And I should say as well, like, well done, like, to be in the GB team. You were first past the line, or over the line, past the post in that trial race. And you did become UK skyrunning champion. And, you're going to go to the OCC this year. It's going to be a mega year for you. I know it will be, and I'm glad that I'll get to see it and like experience that and be in that little support crew that I know you'll have there, because you've got family going out to OCC, and I believe you've got family going out to Worlds as well.
Yeah, it's great to have people around you just to cheer for you and make the whole time a bit more like sort of a holiday and celebration, really.
Definitely, yeah, that's the best part of it. The places you go and the people who are with you, yeah, 100%. And even if it doesn't go well, like, your last race didn't go according to plan, wasn't like the perfect day for you, and it was a bit of an off day, but I remember you saying straight after, it's like, yeah, but it's Jenny's birthday, we've had a great weekend in Chamonix. It's like, yeah, it would have been great if the race went well, but I think that's a really nice perspective to have on things.
Yeah, I think when you go to these races, yeah, no matter how you do, you've gone to a really nice place with some amazing people, and you can't not enjoy it really when you're in the mountains, the weather's nice, and yeah, sometimes you've got to have a bit of perspective when things don't go well, and yeah, just enjoy it while you can.
Definitely. Really nice message to end on. Now I'm going to let you go, because I know you've got a long run to do. And I know you're going to go and enjoy that in the heat. It's actually hot back here in the UK as well. But that's been fantastic. I've really enjoyed that conversation. And I did pick up some things I didn't know about you. So, yeah, and maybe we should do like a recap podcast later on in the year after those big goals have happened, just to see how those went. But yeah, for now, thank you very much for your time, Bertie.
It's been great chatting.
Yeah, it has been. It's been a great one. I hope everyone listening has enjoyed that as much as I have. We'll keep you up to speed. And if you want to find out how Bertie gets on, then check out our socials. New Levels Coaching Instagram will keep you up to date. My personal Instagram will always keep you up to date as well on race day. I try to do that as best I possibly can whilst putting stuff out. And if you want to follow Bertie as well, we'll put his links in the show notes as well, so you can follow that. And there's always live trackers as well if you want to follow along for the big races. In the meantime, between now and then, enjoy your training, enjoy your racing, and we'll see you all again very, very soon. Cheers, Bertie. Thanks, everyone.